Greatness and Goodness, Barbaro and His Legacy. Chapter 3, The Laurel Futurity, page 16. Obviously, Team Barbaro was very impressed with Barbaro's first race. As such, Max opted for the Laurel Futurity, a stakes race, for his second start. This is the same stakes race won by some of racing's greats, including Affirmed, Secretariat, and Spectacular Bid. Sadly, along with the downturn in Maryland racing, this race has lost some of its prestige in recent years. Nevertheless, it is a stakes race and only Barbaro's second start. Entering in a stakes race for a horse that had only won his maiden race is unusual for a conservative horseman like Max. Because it was unusual, Dick Girardi, who covers the racing for the Philadelphia Daily News, took note. Typically, after a horse breaks its maiden, it runs in a condition race, reserved for horses that have only won one race. By opting for a stakes race, Barbaro could be meeting horses that had won a number of races. The only restriction was that the horses in the race would be fellow 2-year-olds. Barbaro had only won one race and in doing so had beaten other maiden horses. By opting for the Laurel Futurity for their second start, Team Barbaro was sending a strong message that they thought they had a horse with a lot of potential. The message echoed throughout the Max barn. Shortly after his first win, Barbaro's veterinarian, Kathy Anderson, had longtime friends from Massachusetts, Jocelyn Shaughnessy and her daughter Colleen, visiting her. Introducing them to Barbaro, Anderson stated, matter-of-factly, that he was the next year's Kentucky Derby winner. These were high hopes indeed for a horse that had just won his first race, but another example of those lofty expectations Team Barbaro had for their budding star. The week prior to the Laurel Futurity, I was gate schooling at Fair Hill on a horse for trainer Clovia Carroll. Max was also gate schooling horses. Carroll asked Max if he had any Derby horses among his 2-year-olds. He responded that he had a Futurity Pegasus colt, Pegasus by Storm, and a horse running at Laurel that upcoming weekend. Max was, of course, referring to Barbaro. While I listened to the conversation, I dismissed the notion with a quick smile as wishful thinking. Aside from Barbaro's Kentucky Derby win, many consider his victory in the Laurel Futurity, in only his second start, was his most impressive race. Barbaro's performance certainly indicated that he was a 2-year-old with a lot of upside. He again dominated this race, winning by a little over 8 lengths in a sharp time of 1 minute and 40 seconds for the mile and 16th event, a course record. Barbaro completed the last eighth of a mile in less than 12 seconds. Considering that this was only his second start, he still really did not know what he was doing. Again, Barbaro was not the favourite for this race. He was the second choice to Wedding Singer under Johnny Velasquez. Jose Caraballo was back in the saddle for the race. It was like riding a 4-year-old stakes winner against 2-year-olds. He was simply in his own class, said Caraballo. Ironically, there was a very interested observer also riding the Laurel Futurity, Edgar Prado, 14 lengths in arrears aboard Creve Coeur. Max's daughter, Michelle Hyland, was in attendance at the Laurel Futurity. Her father had told her that Barbaro was a nice horse. He does not use those words liberally, so Hyland was excited to see him run. She assumed he was going to run a decent race, but when he grabbed the lead and took off, all seemed surreal. We were excited for the future, not just for the race, but for the future that seemed to be available for Barbaro, said Hyland, who soon began a 1.5-year stint working for her father. As soon as Barbaro captured the Laurel Futurity, Max's phone began to ring. Jockey's agents were calling to try to get the mount on Barbaro, who, after only 2 starts, had demonstrated that he was a very legitimate horse. The first to call was Angel Cordero, agent for Johnny Velasquez.